Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a very accomplished professional in marketing and loyalty from Mumbai, India, Mr. Ajay Row. Ajay, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ashutosh. An honor to be here.
Thank you. Ajay is the founder and chairman of Customer Capital. He's developed loyalty programs for most major companies in India, and he's had a very illustrious corporate career. So, Ajay, before we start talking loyalty, tell me a little bit about your own journey and your own background in loyalty and CRM programs.
So, Ashutosh, like you, I started my career with ITC.
Mm-hmm.
I was out of IMCAL and I was the only guy in marketing who knew how to write code. So, Yogi Deveshwar, who was then the chairman of the hotels division, packed me off to do a 6-month stint in direct marketing, loyalty, kuch kar. And I've spent the next 37 years doing that. So,
Wow.
I started with, we launched the first loyalty program I know of outside of the US in 86, 87, which was for ITC for the hotels division. And we worked with them for about 5 years and then set up my own business, which promptly went broke. In those days, you weren't an entrepreneur, you were doing business. So, and everybody looked at you somewhat, pittingly saying you've probably been fired unless you couldn't hang on to a job. So anyway, I set the business, went broke, joined Ravi Gupta and Trakaya, where I ran direct, and we did some, though I saved myself, some pretty good work. Launching countries, brands which didn't exist before, like Ceasefire and so on. We had quite a lot of fun, did some great work.
Yeah.
I then joined the Rediffusion Group, where I spent 5 years running as the first employee and CEO of Wonderman in India. And Lester Wonderman was pretty much the god of all the stuff that I do, the direct marketing, the loyalty, and he's the guy who came up with the American Express credit card. He's the guy who came up with almost every word, every term that you use in marketing today, relationship marketing, interactivity. He coined almost every one of those, including direct marketing. So the chance to run Wonderman was a big deal for me. And then we started doing work for people internationally. We realized this was back in the late 90s. And we realized there's scope beyond IT. At that time, India was big for, Y2K projects, right? I mean, everybody was nervous that the computer systems around the world would crash. And so a lot of IT was coming to it. We realized we could do more than just IT. And we set up a company called Customer Asset. A couple of contemporaries of mine from there, myself and another friend. That company is now called First Source. We sold it to ICICI at the time, and they interned to go forward. And then we set up an analytics company, a marketing analytics company, and I started doing work for people all over the world. I then retired. I want to retire because I was 40 years driving my wife to distraction and teaching at the IM and basically doing nothing really, and that brought to tears. So the wife kicked me out of the house, saying you better go and do something with yourself because you're driving us all crazy. And so I joined the Tata Group for the next 11 years. 7, I ran CRM for the Taj globally, and 4 was with a JV between a company called EMEA, which was then the leader in loyalty globally, and the Tata Group, and it was through Tata Capital. So I worked with them for 4 years, and then set up a company called Litmus World, which is now India's largest customer experience measurement and management company by a factor of heck of a lot. I mean, they do, I think it's 35 million conversations around.
I want to get to loyalty, and I wanted to ask you, since you've been there for such a long time, what are some of the key components of an effective loyalty program, and how do they contribute to the business's success?
So, a lot of people believe that a loyalty program is equal to loyalty, right? Which is actually untrue. Because a loyalty program is just a means to an end, right? What the loyalty program does, it gives you 5 assets and gives you a means to leverage those assets to try and drive value in business. The first asset it gives you data. Now, previously, airlines, hotels knew there was a button, a seat, or a body in a bed, but they didn't know whose it was. Able to tie that together. Now, with the loyalty program, you had a unique number. And that unique number allowed you to say it was Ashutosh who flew from A to B and then from B to C and then flew back to A, which suggests that Ashutosh is based in A, right? So that was a lot of insight which came from the unique number. Now, with the unique number, you could tie on transaction data. And you could tie on interaction data. So every time you call the call center, they know it was you, right? As you started building out this transaction interaction profile data database,
Hmm.
you found there were ways in which you could mark the database to give you more predictive power.
Hmm.
So that was one asset, which is the data. The second asset was a com channel which you owned. Now, if I bombed you with emails and SMSs just because you signed on to my loyalty program, foolish me, because what I've done is I shot myself in the foot. But if I treat that channel with respect, what happens, Ashutosh, is that you pay attention to me. I don't have to pay Meta and Google to talk to you.
Hmm.
And that can be substantial.
Okay.
Second thing is get a comp channel.
Hmm.
The third thing you get is a currency other than rupees.
Hmm.
Any marketeer with half a brain in his head, okay, not even half a brain in the head, can do a discount,
Hmm.
right? Let's have a grand strategy in this one. Let's give a discount of 25%.
Hmm.
Anyone can do that. Now, to move away from discounts and create a currency which you own and you control the value of
Hmm.
is the third thing which it gives you. Call it points, call it miles, whatever. But that's the
Hmm.
third asset it gives you.
Hmm.
Fourth is the ability, now that you got the data, you got the currency, you got all these things, you can put that together and make the person feel special. So when you join the short queue when you're getting onto your check-in at the airport, right, rather than long sneaking queue, which is for
Hmm.
players that are not platinum status, this little feeling of, oh, I'm special, right? That is the fourth thing that you get, which is the ability to treat people differently
Hmm.
and legitimately do so.
Well said. Well
And the
said.
fifth
Hmm.
is there are a bunch of people who want to talk to the people that you talk to.
Hmm.
Now you've got the currency, you've got the brand, you've got all that data, you've got all that stuff, which makes those people want to talk to you,
Hmm.
which means you're a very valuable partner to other brands.
Hmm.
And that was the fifth reason to do it.
Hmm.
But what's happened in recent years is that fifth reason has become the dominant reason.
Hmm.
So if you look at airlines, for example, um, if you the last time I saw the figures for United and American, right? American's valuation was $24 billion,
Mhm.
of which I think only five is from the airline,
Oh, wow.
and 19 is from the loyalty program.
Hmm.
So A Advantage is worth four times the airline, right?
Hmm.
United is a bit extreme.
Hmm.
When I last saw it, which is admittedly about 6 or 9 months ago,
Hmm.
the airline was worth minus $6 billion,
Mhm.
a negative $6 billion, and the loyalty program plus 37 billion.
Amazing.
So it gives you a sense that now the tail is wagging the dog, except now the tail has become the dog,
Hmm.
and we just happen to have a few planes for fun, right?
Fascinating. Fascinating. And how important is it, Ajay, for businesses to integrate their loyalty programs with other marketing channels, and of course, in today's day and age, social media?
I don't think you got a choice really. If you
Mhm.
don't, because you got a bunch of people who put up their hands and said, "Look, you're special to us. We want to be special to you,"
Correct.
right? And if you're going to ignore them in your general marketing, well, shame on you. Because they can be incredibly helpful. I mean, for example, Ashutosh, if you're a friend of mine and you put up your hand, you said, "Look, I'll go through the effort to become a member of your loyalty program. I'm going to give you my card when I shop with you," whatever it is, right?
Hmm.
You're making an effort to be my friend.
Correct.
Now, if I ignore you and I ignore what you can bring to my party, because you can give
Hmm.
me so many things, you can give me recommendations.
Correct.
You can say, "Look, I believe you're special," right? And
Hmm.
that makes a big difference to your friends, who I may not know, but you do,
Hmm.
right? Testimonials, recommendations, that kind of thing is very helpful. But there's much more you can do. You can give me advice. Very often, if I asked you for advice, saying, "Hey, Ashutosh, can you tell me how to do a better job?" If
Hmm.
you care about me, the chances are you'll probably tell me.
Hmm.
And if I apply that advice, it can do a fair amount. You may be willing to save me money.
Hmm.
You may say to me, of these seven things that you do for me, these two I don't care about, knock them off. Give me these five, charge me a little less, and it may turn out that I make more profit as a
Hmm.
result, right? So there's so many
Fascinating.
things you can do with me, right?
Fascinating. There's also a lot of discussion about personalization in loyalty programs. So I'd love to get your perspective on how critical is it for personalization, and how can this enhance loyalty to the brand?
I think expectations have changed, Ashutosh. When you use Google Maps, the home there is your home. It's not mine. When
Hmm.
I use it, home is my home. Personalization is here to stay, right? And it's become your expectation.
Hmm.
Now, if your loyalty program doesn't do it, you're annoyed.
Hmm.
Hey, why don't you guys get your act together? Because it's something which Google does with hundreds of millions of people. Why can't you do it with the 25,000 people on your loyalty program, right? I mean, it's an
Correct.
irritation.
Correct.
Now, as you raise the bar on personalization, I think probably the most important thing that you have to give is attention,
Hmm.
right? And if I can get your attention, right, you know, it's a huge service you're doing me.
Hmm.
Now, I cannot get and keep your attention unless I'm relevant to you,
Hmm.
which means that in today's day and age, when attention is at a huge premium, the onslaughts of attention all the time there,
Correct.
people crying for attention, right? If you're willing to give it to me, I need to be respectful and make it personalized to you.
Hmm.
Particularly now that technology and data allows me to do so, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't think there's a choice with
Well
personalization. You
said.
have to do it.
Well said. Well said. Can you also talk a little bit about the role of technology and artificial intelligence when it comes to shaping the future of loyalty programs?
So, Ashutosh, I think a lot of people confuse the plumbing with the water.
Correct.
Technology is the plumbing,
Absolutely.
right? It gets what gets the water to you. Water is the data,
Hmm.
right? Now, the AI is enabled to be more effective because of the technology,
Hmm.
right? But the AI is separate from the tech, and the tech is separate from the AI. Think of it that way, right?
Hmm.
The Okay, forget about AI. Let's talk about basic analytics, and we'll come to AI in a moment.
Hmm.
If you take basic analytics, it's really about the data. Now, the ability to leverage that insight from the data to do
Hmm.
something special for you is something which I should be doing,
Hmm.
right? I may use tech to do it. I may just use human being to do it. It doesn't make a
Correct.
difference. But
Correct.
leveraging that is something I need to do.
Hmm.
Now, what AI does is it uses that data at a one plus plus step, right?
Hmm.
So what it's saying is I'm learning from the data. I'm looking ahead and I'm saying, okay, let's take predictive AI, for example, the chat GPTs of this world, right? What you're
Hmm.
really saying is if this is the question, then this is likely to be the answer because I looked at all these
Hmm.
databases. 9 or 10 times is the answer, so this is your answer.
Right.
Now, in effect, what it's doing is it's generating what you could be looking for,
Hmm.
right? Now, that's a tool. It's available. It's
Correct.
great tech. We love it. Apply it.
Hmm.
But what's more important than that, and that's a buzzword,
Hmm.
is to matter to you. If I
Hmm.
can make you care,
Hmm.
right? And go back to your childhood, Ashutosh. I'm pretty sure when you were a kid,
Hmm.
you'd go with your parents to the storekeeper. He'd recognize your mom, and he'd say, "Ma'am, I've got this for you," because he'd know what she wanted.
Correct.
He cared about her, and she would care about him, saying, "I'd rather go and shop with him
Yeah.
because he knows what I want."
Correct.
What's changed?
Hmm.
It's the same thinking. It's just now you're doing it for millions of customers, and you're
Yeah.
using data and AI. But
Hmm.
that same predictive ability to know that Mrs. Garg will want to buy this when it's in season and she
Hmm.
comes by, and I've
Hmm.
got to keep it for her.
Hmm.
Same thing, man.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you. My next question is that, there is also a lot of talk, Ajay, about data security, privacy, and security of customer data. And once in a while, I do get a message from someone around the world saying, so many million, records have been breached. Yours was one of them or something, and change your password. I'd love to get your perspective on how can companies ensure privacy of customer data?
So I'm not an expert on it,
Okay.
right? And to my everlasting shame,
Mhm.
after years of dealing with fraud and data security and stuff like that, I got conned myself the other day, right? And fortunately, my wife, whom I asked to send money to, this gentleman who's a friend of my father's, who incidentally was the head of levers, he used to run tech for levers
Mhm.
across the Asia Pac region, I think.
Wow.
It's certainly in India, and I think across
Mhm.
Asia Pac. Very senior guy in tech, right? And I got a mail from him saying, "Can you help me with this thing?" And it's
Yes, I've also received similar mails. Yeah.
well, there you go. And because it was him, it never even occurred to me. I mean, the friend of my father, the senior guy, levers tech guy, etc. I mean, unfortunately, my wife said, "Hey, hang on a sec, are you for real? I mean, you're actually trying to send money." So I said, "Well,
Hmm.
it's, Mr. So and so," and so he said, "No, it's not."
Hmm.
And then we didn't get conned, but that was fortunately because I've got a very suspicious
Right.
wife. But otherwise, I would have got conned. But
Amazing.
Ashutosh, I'll tell you what it's about, right? Data breaches are a fact. We do all we can to catch them. There's always some bright spark finding a new way to work around, right? And there are two ways in which data breaches work, right?
Hmm.
One is tech, and the other is something called social engineering. I'm not sure if you're
Hmm.
familiar with social engineering, but
Hmm.
it's basically people. I ask you a question, I build on that. I ask somebody else a question, I build on that. I build on that, and next thing you know, I've got everything I need to know.
Correct.
And so both of those are threats, right? And now I think the actors are no longer some kid in a garage. The
Mm.
actors are countries, right? And formidable countries with formidable abilities to, so the days of security, the way I understood it, have long gone,
Mm.
right? I mean, the double blinds and the seeding the database and all that stuff, which I would have understood. Those days have been yesterday's news.
Correct.
Now it's, very large countries who are attacking your databases.
Mm.
And, what do they call them? 0 days and stuff like that are now become, worth millions of dollars, aren't they?
Absolutely.
So
I
it's
agree.
really, it's
I
not a
agree.
subject which I've got any competence to talk about. So
Absolutely.
sorry, it's just, it's
No, no, I
definitely.
agree with you completely. My next question is, and coming back to the loyalty programs, but based on all the vast experience that you have, what are some of the common mistakes a lot of businesses make when they design their loyalty program?
The C curve, right? Which I learned off in the data group. This axis is what you know, oh, sorry, what you think you know, and this axis is what you actually know,
Hmm.
right? And a lot of people think they know loyalty because they're
Hmm.
members of the loyalty program, and they don't actually know it.
Hmm.
That recognition that I don't know, and therefore I've got to learn, and therefore I've got to get better, is, I think, the single largest mistake that I've seen.
Hmm.
Oh, yeah, we've got a loyalty program. The
Hmm.
second largest error which I've seen is, you know, a loyalty program touches every part of the organization done right. It's not a
Correct.
marketing thing.
Correct.
It's actually a CEO thing. And
Hmm.
the competences that drives how to use data effectively, how to think about analytics and stuff like that,
Hmm.
tech, is a CEO thing. But what you tend to do is you put the guy who reports to the guy who runs marketing, you put a guy over there into that, and you say, okay, well, the pair of you just figure it out, and don't trouble the rest of us, and we'll give you very little money
Hmm.
because anyway we don't know what it does. So the lack of attention is the second largest.
Hmm.
And the third is this, what we were talking about earlier, which is this tendency to give discounts on the drop of the hat.
Hmm.
The loyalty program almost becomes how much more discount can I give you?
Correct.
Which is not the purpose at all, right? It's supposed to build a relationship with you, and you
Hmm.
don't necessarily want a discount. Not to say you won't take it.
Hmm.
Ask you, do you want a discount? Of course I want a discount. Which one of us doesn't? But
Hmm.
would you buy without the discount? Do
Hmm.
you care enough? And the chances are you would.
Hmm.
You've been a retailer. You know that some people who come by and pay a
Correct.
premium to buy it from you. They've got a reason why, whatever that reason is,
Correct.
and they're valuable.
Correct. Wonderful. And when it comes to small businesses, I speak to many entrepreneurs. The moment an entrepreneur has a business, which is the B2C, for example, uh, everyone wants to develop their own loyalty program. My question is, how can small businesses develop their own loyalty programs, or should they?
No, that's a really tricky one. It's a difficult one to answer
Okay.
because at one level, absolutely yes, you must. It
Mm.
helps you. At the other level, the chances are you're going to mess it up,
Mm.
right? And it's not going to help you.
Mm.
So perhaps you shouldn't. So it's one of those really difficult questions. I wish, it were, certainly I'm talking about India here. I wish there were a bunch of people who would say, well, you know what? Here's a platform, just plug it in and it's going to work.
Correct.
It's not that easy, I'm afraid, Ashutosh. So it's a difficult
Okay.
question to answer.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So I have time for two more questions for you. My next one is that how do you measure the success of a loyalty program? And what are some of the key performance indicators businesses should track?
So I think the two parts to the loyalty program, right?
Mm.
And one part is the impact on the mother business,
Mm.
right? So your loyalty program should give you incremental revenue. It should give you incremental margin, right? In the core business.
Correct.
So it should help you fill the troughs. It should help you, manage your peaks, and the equivalent of that in retail, for example, right? You shouldn't be dependent on the EOSS, is the only way to sell, right? It,
Mm.
it should
Mm.
manage your core business.
Right.
The loyalty program itself creates ancillary revenue. And in that, what you're looking at is ancillary revenue margin, ancillary revenue itself, and then the margin of the ancillary revenue, and it generates a huge amount of cash because of the way the economics work.
Mm.
So you should be looking at the cash. The reason why programs are so valuable, like 20x revenue multiple kind of thing, is because of the predictability. Because you're sitting on the cash because of the way loyalty works. You debit in advance and you credit on redemption. So you're sitting on the cash up front.
Mm. Mm.
And you just need to recognize the revenue.
Mm.
So in a large loyalty program, which has been around for say 5, 10 years, about 80% of your revenue is already in the bank as cash before you start the year. Now, that is an incredibly valuable thing in itself, right? Which is why they've worth so much. That's on the monetary side.
Right.
On the strategic side, your loyalty program needs to measurably give you a foil against your competition, right? On the competency side, your program needs to measurably improve your ability to use data, improve your ability to work with your customers, right? So there are many metrics which you should look at.
Yeah.
But there's no point, there's a boat in the water, right? The tide goes up, the boat goes down. The tide goes down, the boat, goes up, the boat goes up, the boat goes down. And then the boat takes credit for the tide.
Right.
That is not a good measure of a loyalty program.
Well said. Well said. Ajay, my last question for you, and this I'm going to ask you to where, you're look into the crystal ball. What do you think will be the next big thing in customer loyalty? And how can businesses stay ahead of the curve to stay competitive?
So what we're trying to build now, sorry, this is going to sound like I'm selling our company.
No, please do. Please do, by all
Right?
means.
But what we're trying to do, Ashutosh, is there's a lot of expertise in the last 37 years of loyalty that I've had. My partners are 25 years, 30 years, 35 years. We're all pretty long in the tooth, and we're doing the startup now. We're trying to codify all that expertise into what we're calling the expert stack. Right now, take that expertise, put it in the expert stack, you put that on top of a database, and it starts churning out the actions you should be taking. Right. So what's happening is you're getting an increasing amount of automation and AI-driven automation. If you really, that's the buzzword nowadays, right? But it's really, so think about it like when you put Google, right, on top of a database and say, will you search this and give me some predictive value out of this? And Google searches that database. Let's say it's a bunch of forms and papers, and it says, okay, based on keyword search and the way the algorithm works, it looks at what works for people when they search, etc. We understand this. Imagine that for a loyalty program. So I suspect that kind of thing, whether it's us or it's somebody else, that kind of thing to codify the knowledge and automate it so that the small guy we were talking about earlier has an opportunity to do a loyalty program and know it will work because it's beyond tech. Tech remains the plumbing. You can have the great plumbing, but you still need the data to work, right? So I guess that's the future to my. And I'm sorry, I wasn't meant to be a plug for myself, but
no. But
I believe that
we are talking about you and your company, so I don't have any problem at all on your talking about your company. And on that note, Ajay, thank you so much for speaking to me about your own journey. It was wonderful to learn that you and I were both colleagues in ITC for some time. Thank you also for speaking to me at such length about loyalty programs. I'm a member of many. I did have a loyalty program in Guardian, but I wish I had known you at the time when I was implementing my loyalty program in Guardian. Wouldn't have made so many mistakes that we did. Thank you also for talking to me about so many different aspects of how loyalty programs can add value. And I love the example that you gave me about the airlines. I had no idea, and I'm sure my audience that would also have no idea, that the value of the airline, valuation of the airline is negative, but the valuation of the loyalty program of the airline is significantly positive. Thank you for speaking to me, and good luck.
Thank you so much, Azur. Really kind of you to have me. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.